It's the greatest movie that almost disappeared into obscurity, a box office flop that quietly transformed into one of the most beloved films ever made. The Shawshank Redemption isn't just a story of hope, it's a masterpiece packed with secrets most fans never notice. But what if I told you there's a version of the film where Andy and Red never reunite? Or that the warden was based on a real man even more corrupt than the character on screen? From visual tricks you've seen 100 times but never noticed, to the scene that saved the film at the last second, this story runs deeper than you think. We're going behind the bars, behind the script, and behind the performances to uncover the hidden truths, cutscenes, and untold choices that change everything about how you see Shawshank. By the end, you won't just love the film more, you'll realize you never fully understood it in the first place. The scene that almost didn't exist. For many fans, Red's line, "Get busy living or get busy dying, that's goddamn right," marks the emotional peak of the Shawshank Redemption. But what most people don't know, that powerful moment wasn't in the original script. Morgan Freeman revealed in a 2014 interview that the scene of Red on the bus, finally choosing to seek out Andy in Mexico, was a late addition. Frank had finished the film, Freeman said, but something felt incomplete. The studio even considered scrapping the beach reunion entirely, worried the film was too long. Instead, Frank Darabont wrote and added the now iconic bus scene as a way to preserve hope and give Red a proper ending. Without it, Red's arc would have ended in ambiguity, released from prison but emotionally unresolved. That one added scene reframed the entire film, not just as Andy's story of escape, but as Red's too. Not escape from walls or guards, but from the quiet hopelessness that had defined his life for decades. Freeman put it best. It's not just about Andy getting out, it's about Red finally being free. That scene doesn't just tie the story together, it redefines it. Shawshank becomes a dual journey about two men, each finding freedom in radically different ways. The music, smuggling in hope, one note at a time. Thomas Newman's score for the Shawshank Redemption is nearly as unforgettable as the film itself, but few realize just how intentionally it was crafted to echo the story's emotional arc. Tim Robbins once explained that early scenes feature cold, almost mechanical music, mirroring the lifeless routine of prison life. But as the film progresses, the score slowly warms, growing more melodic and hopeful. The shift is so gradual that most viewers don't consciously notice it. It works on a deeper, emotional level. Like Andy himself, the music quietly brings hope into Shawshank, one note at a time. One of the most moving moments comes during the "Brooks was here" sequence. Instead of manipulating the audience, the music simply reflects Brooks's quiet heartbreak, his fear, his confusion, his loneliness in a world he no longer understands. James Whitmore said it best, "The music doesn't tell you what to feel, it just lets you feel it." Though Newman's work was nominated for an Oscar, it lost to Hans Zimmer's The Lion King. But many critics still consider Shawshank's score one of the greatest ever composed, precisely because it whispers rather than shouts. And that restraint is what makes it timeless. The hidden meanings most fans miss. The Shawshank Redemption is rich with symbolism, most of it so subtle that even die-hard fans often miss it on their first few watches. Over the years, cast members have shared insights that completely reshape how we view key scenes. Tim Robbins revealed a quiet visual pattern. Andy is often framed behind bars or blocked by fences, even outside his cell. Frank would position me behind staircases, railings, anything that implied separation, Robbins explained. It wasn't random. It symbolized Andy's deeper imprisonment, not just physically, but by his innocence, his past, and his secrets. It's a visual motif repeated dozens of times, registering subconsciously until you finally see it, and then you can't unsee it. Morgan Freeman pointed out a deeper layer in the famous rooftop scene, where the inmates drink beer in the sun. To most, it's a rare moment of freedom. But Freeman noted, that's the first time Andy starts helping the guards with money. That's when he becomes someone else. While the others enjoy their drinks, Andy is building the persona that will one day help him escape. He's literally above the prison, already on his way out. That rooftop scene isn't just a break, it's the beginning of the long game. Even the film's most iconic line, "Get busy living or get busy dying," runs deeper than many realize. Clancy Brown shared that Frank Darabont had that phrase pinned to the wall in the production office from day one. Every choice in the film had to reflect that, Brown said. Hope or despair, life or death. And with that lens, everything shifts. When Andy blasts opera over the loudspeakers, he's choosing life. When Brooks carves "Brooks was here" before his suicide, He's choosing death. Shawshank isn't just a prison movie. It's a quiet meditation on the choice we all face: to survive or to live. The Warden was based on a real person. Bob Gunton, who chillingly portrayed Warden Norton, later revealed that his character wasn't purely fictional. In fact, much of Norton was inspired by a real prison official from the 1950s. "Frank gave me old news clippings about this warden in the Midwest," Gunton recalled. He presented himself as a devout Christian, but behind the scenes he exploited inmates for personal labor and embezzled funds. This duality, pious on the outside, corrupt on the inside, shaped Norton's most memorable traits: the Bible quotes, the obsession with image, and the cruel authoritarianism. It wasn't just for show. That hypocrisy was real, Gunton said. Understanding this inspiration gives the Warden's final scene even more weight. When the police close in, it's not just prison he fears, it's the collapse of his carefully constructed self-image. He can't handle being judged the way he judged others for years. That moment wasn't Hollywood exaggeration. It was rooted in America's actual penal history. The villainous, Bible-thumping warden wasn't invented, he was remembered. The characters behind the faces. What most fans never realize is how much of Shawshank's emotional weight came from work you never see. The main cast didn't just play their roles, they built entire lives behind them. Morgan Freeman developed detailed history for Red, imagining him as a numbers runner in the black community during the 30s and 40s, someone who once held power, only to lose it all. "That's why he's so good at getting things," Freeman said. "He was always a fixer." That imagined past explained Red's quiet authority and why he instantly understood Andy. He saw another man who'd fallen from a high place. Tim Robbins took a more layered approach. "I played Andy as two people," he explained. "There was the outward Andy, cautious, reserved, even distant, and then the private Andy, the one who chipped away at the wall in secret." Robbins subtly changed posture, voice, and expression depending on which Andy was showing. In public, he was tight and rigid. In private, he moved with quiet freedom, like when he played opera through the loudspeakers. You don't always see the shift, but you feel it. Then there's James Whitmore, who portrayed Brooks, the elderly librarian. Whitmore based Brooks on his own father, who struggled with depression later in life. The iconic bird-feeding scene? That wasn't in the script. Whitmore suggested it, inspired by his dad feeding pigeons after losing his wife. That tiny moment brought soul to a character with barely 10 minutes of screen time and broke hearts around the world. These weren't just performances. They were deeply human portrayals shaped by personal truth. One reason Shawshank still resonates so powerfully today: how weather told the story. One of the film's most subtle tricks lies in its use of weather. Morgan Freeman pointed it out years later. Rain accompanies nearly every tragedy in the film. The sister's attacks, Tommy's murder, the warden's suicide, all happen under stormy skies. But when Andy escapes, it's during a thunderstorm, chaotic and violent, mirroring the tension of his flight. And in the very last scene, when Red finds Andy in Zihuatanejo, the sky's finally clear. Freeman noted it's the only scene in the entire movie with true sunlight. Every other outdoor shot is gray, cloudy, or overcast. It's a quiet visual language. Shawshank is a world of gloom. But freedom, that's where the sun finally shines. The posters that told Andy's story. Few images from The Shawshank Redemption are more iconic than the posters covering Andy's cell wall. First Rita Hayworth, then Marilyn Monroe, and finally, Raquel Welch. Most fans see them as clever camouflage for his escape tunnel, but they meant much more. Tim Robbins once explained that each poster symbolized a different chapter of Andy's transformation. Rita Hayworth represented the 1940s, elegant, classic, and reserved, much like the Andy who first entered Shawshank. Marilyn Monroe reflected the shifting tone of the late 50s and early 60s, bolder, more complex. Finally, Raquel Welch, dressed in furs in 1 million years BC, symbolized something primal. "She's not just a pinup," Robbins said. "She represents Andy's shedding society, becoming raw, elemental, ready to crawl through the dirt and come out clean." Director Frank Darabont confirmed this reading. "The posters move from fully clothed to nearly naked," he noted. "They represent Andy stripping away the world's expectations, preparing for rebirth." So when that final poster flaps open to reveal the tunnel, it's not just a reveal. It's a symbolic unveiling of Andy's freedom, the last barrier between confinement and liberation, the redemption you didn't see coming. Most viewers think the redemption in The Shawshank Redemption refers to Andy's escape and eventual vindication, but the cast has shared a deeper take. Tim Robbins explained, "It's not just Andy being redeemed, it's about how he redeems the place around him." From restoring the prison library to giving inmates hope and purpose, Andy brings life to a place designed to strip it away. Even his cell becomes sacred, marked by carvings and hidden dreams. Morgan Freeman offered another layer. Red's redemption isn't about getting out. It's about finally being honest. When Red tells the parole board he no longer cares what they think, that's the moment he frees himself. After decades of saying what they wanted to hear, he speaks from the heart. That's why the film resonates so deeply. It's not just a prison break. It's a story about reclaiming dignity, telling the truth, and choosing hope, even in a place built to crush it. The Brooks subplot that changed everything. One of the most heartbreaking storylines in The Shawshank Redemption centers on Brooks Hatlin, the elderly inmate who, after being released, can't adjust to life on the outside and ends his own life. But what many don't realize is that Brooks was barely a character in Stephen King's original novella. James Whitmore, who portrayed Brooks, said the character was little more than a passing mention in the source material. But director Frank Darabont saw something deeper. He understood that Brooks represented every man who'd become institutionalized, so used to prison that the outside world felt unbearable, Whitmore explained. Expanding Brooks's role added a powerful emotional layer to the film. It gave real weight to the idea of freedom and the fear of it. Without Brooks, Red's story would lack contrast. We wouldn't grasp how monumental it is when Red chooses to embrace hope instead of fear. Darabont later revealed that the studio pushed to cut the Brooks scenes, claiming they slowed down the film. "I had to fight for him," Darabont said. "Without Brooks, Red's arc has no payoff. Brooks chooses fear, Red chooses hope. You need both for either to matter." That's what makes the carvings on the ceiling beam so powerful. Brooks was here. It's not just a message, it's a quiet tragedy. And when Red adds, "so was Red," he's not just marking his presence. He's choosing a different fate, the real prison behind Shawshank. One of the most powerful choices made during production was filming inside the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, a haunting, decommissioned prison shut down just 4 years earlier for inhumane conditions. That decision changed everything. According to the cast, the building wasn't just a location, it shaped their performances. Clancy Brown, who portrayed the ruthless Captain Hadley, said, "Walking through those gates each day, you could feel decades of pain in the walls. It wasn't acting, it was just there." Tim Robbins recalled how sitting in those tiny 6-by-8-foot cells between takes stirred something visceral. When that door shut, the panic was real. He didn't have to imagine prison, he felt it. What most fans don't know, many background actors in the yard scenes were actual former inmates of the prison. Director Frank Darabont wanted realness, not rehearsals, and he got it. Their faces didn't need direction, they had lived it. The crew took that realism even further. They aged the prison walls differently for each era of the story, subtly making them look cleaner in flashbacks, a detail most viewers never consciously noticed. Morgan Freeman later said, "I wasn't playing a prisoner on a movie set. I was playing a man who had endured that exact hell." And that authenticity seeps into every frame of Shawshank, the film that nearly didn't happen. The Shawshank Redemption almost never hit theaters. When director Frank Darabont approached Stephen King about adapting his novella Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, King wasn't sold. Not because he doubted the filmmaker, but because the story felt too introspective, too internal to work on screen. Still, King gave Darabont the rights for just $1. As part of his Dollar Baby program, King allowed young filmmakers to adapt his short stories for a symbolic fee. That small gesture had a big impact. Tim Robbins recalled that the low budget meant no studio micromanagement. "We weren't shooting a summer blockbuster," he said. Frank had real creative freedom. Morgan Freeman echoed the sentiment. "It's crazy to think a movie that would top IMDb for years was barely on Hollywood's radar. Columbia Pictures didn't even know how to market it." And yet, like Andy Dufresne's journey through the prison walls, Shawshank found a way, quietly, unexpectedly, into cinematic legend. The ending that almost didn't happen. One of the most uplifting endings in movie history, Andy and Red reuniting on a sunlit beach in Mexico, almost didn't make it into The Shawshank Redemption. According to director Frank Darabont, studio executives wanted the film to end with Red on the bus, headed south. They argued that showing the actual reunion was unnecessary, and that the film was already running too long. But Darabont refused to let it go. "They thought ending on the bus was hopeful enough," he said. "But I didn't want hope as an idea. I wanted to show it fulfilled. Without that final moment, audiences would be left with the same uncertainty Red wrestled with throughout the film. Tim Robbins added an unexpected detail. The beach reunion was actually the first scene filmed. Darabont wanted that sense of distance, the slightly hesitant energy that comes when two people reconnect after years apart. At that point, Robbins and Morgan Freeman hadn't yet built the on-screen chemistry seen in their prison scenes, and that early shoot gave the final moment just the right tone. Restrained, honest, and deeply human. Looking back, it's hard to imagine Shawshank without that last shot. Red walking toward Andy, the ocean in the background, and no more walls between them. As Morgan Freeman put it, without that scene, the movie would be about hope as a concept, but showing it makes it real, and that's what makes it unforgettable. The film's second life, from flop to phenomenon. When The Shawshank Redemption premiered in 1994, it struggled to make a dent. Released alongside heavyweights like Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump, it earned only $16 million at the box office, well below its $25 million budget. By Hollywood standards, it was a failure, but that wasn't the end of its story. As Morgan Freeman explained, the film found its true audience later, through cable airings and VHS rentals. Networks like TNT began airing it frequently, and something unusual happened. Viewers didn't just watch it once, they watched it every time it aired. It became cinematic comfort food. This unexpected second life turned Shawshank from an overlooked drama into a cultural staple. By the late 90s, it was not only profitable but beloved. There's a kind of poetry in that, Tim Robbins said. A film about patience needed time to be appreciated. The film's slow rise echoed Andy Dufresne's story, quiet perseverance leading to lasting impact. Andy spent years chipping away at the wall, Robbins noted. Shawshank chipped its way into the public consciousness the same way, one viewer, one recommendation at a time. By 2019, the movie had held a top spot on IMDb's greatest films list for over a decade, outpacing even The Godfather and Citizen Kane. What began as a box office disappointment had grown into something much bigger, a permanent part of modern film history. Shawshank Tourism, a prison transformed. In an unexpected twist to the film's legacy, the Ohio State Reformatory, where The Shawshank Redemption was shot, has become a major tourist destination. Once known for its brutal conditions, the now-defunct prison draws over 100,000 visitors a year. It's amazing, Tim Robbins remarked, that a place once built to crush the human spirit is now preserved because of a story about hope. Fans from around the globe come to walk the same corridors as Andy and Red, step inside Andy's cell, and even examine the recreated escape tunnel, originally a Hollywood set, now a permanent fixture. The town of Mansfield, Ohio has fully embraced the film's impact. Locals have created the Shawshank Trail, a self-guided tour that includes more than a dozen filming locations across the region. The boost in tourism has provided a vital economic lift to an area hit hard by industrial decline. In many ways, the transformation mirrors the story itself. A place once synonymous with despair now stands as a monument to resilience. The prison that was meant to punish now inspires, and that's a redemption story all its own. The legacy, why Shawshank still resonates. As The Shawshank Redemption nears its 30th anniversary, one question remains. Why has this film endured while so many others have faded? Morgan Freeman offered a powerful answer because it speaks to something universal. The feeling of being trapped by life, by regret, by fear, and the belief that with enough patience and hope, freedom is still possible. Tim Robbins echoed that sentiment, noting that the film doesn't preach about hope. It shows how difficult it is to hold on to. That's why Red's line, "Hope is a dangerous thing," resonates so deeply. The film doesn't sell easy optimism. It acknowledges that hope can be terrifying, even painful, and still shows it's worth holding on to. Director Frank Darabont described the film's core as a tribute to what can't be taken from us: our humanity, our friendships, and our ability to find meaning in even the bleakest places. Shawshank isn't just about escaping a prison. It's about reclaiming the parts of ourselves we thought were lost. In a world where so much entertainment feels disposable, Shawshank is a reminder that the most lasting stories aren't always immediate hits. Like Andy Dufresne himself, the film revealed its greatness slowly, one viewer, one recommendation at a time. And maybe that's why it still touches people today. Because it doesn't just feel like a movie, it feels like truth, wrapped in fiction. A reflection of our deepest struggles and our highest hopes. So if this film has ever moved you, watch it again, with fresh eyes. Notice the hidden visual motifs, the evolving music, the way Brooks's story quietly sets up Red's choice. Most of all, share it with someone who's never seen it. There's something magical in watching someone discover Shawshank for the first time, and realizing, like so many of us have, that no good thing ever really dies. If you enjoyed this glimpse into Hollywood's golden age, don't forget to like, subscribe, and step into the next story. There's always more behind the curtain.